Just gonna wait a few seconds while people keep coming in. How many do we have now? Thank you for joining us. We're happy to be here. So I am Natasha Lugo Escobar. I'm the director of the Postbac and Summer Research Programs, and also one of the pre-grad advisors. So I work with many postbacs, supporting them right throughout this process. So we'll perhaps meet through one of the workshops or the personal statement working group, or if you need advice. I'm also joined here today by my other OIT colleagues, Natasha Hill. She is one of our educational advisors, and Gail Siebel, who is a scientific skills coach. So they are part of the pre-grad team. We're missing Brittany Hardy, who couldn't be here today with us, but you're gonna hear a lot from us and hopefully meet us throughout this time, and we're here to support you. So just the first few things before we get started. We will share the slides. So you don't need to spend, a lot of time like writing, just making notes on the things that are important for you, so you can focus also on listening. And we will share the recording at the end. So today we have the first workshop on choosing and applying to grad school, which is the first in the series of presentations that we are sponsoring to help you prepare for the grad school application season, which it's starting pretty soon. And my goal today is help you kind of think broadly about how to choose a program. What are some of those factors that you want to think about, right, when you are looking for the program that is right for you? We also touch on the application process, just the overall timeline and what are the main, components of the application and requirements from the programs. And then we'll touch in some tips for success. What we will not do today is covering and going into detail of personal and research statements. That Gail is going to have a workshop next week. So she will tell you all about it. We will have another workshop on interviewing in November to get you starting in the interview season. And next, kind of like way in months ahead, in the spring of next year, we will have one on succeeding in grad school, right? So how to approach this new journey and how to be successful and thrive in a graduate program. We will not be covering fellowships to grad school or GRE. But first, I want to start just going over some of these like common myths that you may have heard along the way, whether here or in your undergrad or from others around you when you talk about grad school, right? And the first one is that the misconception that, oh, there's only one right school for you, right? And that is unrealistic to think that there's only one perfect program for you. One of the things about grad school is that there are so many programs and they vary, not only in structure, but they vary in like what is the research focus in their the faculty. They vary in the programming and the offerings. So you really want to think about all the things that are important for you, which hopefully will help you kind of figure out that today to choose the program that is right for you. And you can have several options, but there's always going to be one that might be more aligned with what you want to do and your values and what you're looking to get out of grad school. The other thing is that all that matters is the science. And we hear these a lot, science or prestige. And grad school is much more than that. Yes, of course, science is going to be your priority. Science is what you're going to be excited about, but there are so many other things that play a role in your success as a grad student. So you should weigh all these things when you are thinking about the program that will be the most beneficial for you. The other one is that the PhD only prepares you for academia or research position, and maybe that was true when I went to grad school over 2 decades ago, where the the common route was you go to a PhD, postdoc, and academia. But that have changed throughout all these years. So PhD prepares you, have a lot of transferable skills, and it prepares you for a range of career options, not only academia. We get a lot of questions about, I need to have a near to perfect like grades and like a very high GPA. And the truth is, like, GPA is just a number. It's one small factor among a lot of other things that they're looking at when they're reviewing your application. And some schools don't have a minimum GPA. I mean, they might let the average applicant has, I don't know, 3.7, and that can give you an idea of the the pool of applicants you will be competing with, but it's not something that should deter you to apply if you don't have like 4.0, because that is not um, realistic. There are many other things that have a huge weight on the selection. Also, we have worries from trainees that say, I have had some personal medical issues, or I have had struggle with a PI, or have transfer, from one lab to another. And you might think that that is the end of it, that is going to affect you negatively and you will not be accepting to grad school. And that is not accurate. We all have had challenges and different situations that might have not been, ideal, but it's all in the context of what the situation was, what your specific experience, and how to talk about that and how to prepare you for that. So again, don't let that deter you. And I think the one that we have heard like a lot lately is that there's no future for grad school. We know, the last 6-7 months have been very challenging for the grad school education, a lot of uncertainty, but based on our conversations with advisors, with deans at different grad schools, they are doing their best to keep moving forward their programs, to finding different ways to support their students, and they want you to keep, pursuing your goals, if that is going to grad school, and they are positive, right? Just to keep pushing and inspiring students and giving them hope that this is possible. So it's might be, challenging, um, but there is future for grad school, and that's why you are here today. Before we dive into like the specific of, how to think holistically, about grad school, I just want you to kind of understand like some important pieces of data to help you make an informed decision. The first is, and I talk a little bit about it, like, right, PhD scientists enter a broad array of careers at and from the bench and in all sectors, whether that is government, industry, academia, nonprofit. So we know that the proportion of PhDs that go into tenure track positions have been declining over the last decade. Maybe it's like, say, like 25 each percentage, right? So the programs are aware of these like trends and patterns, and they are preparing their grad students, right, with a broader skill set that will prepare them for the range of career path that where a PhD is valuable, right? And the different things that you can do. So just having that in mind that, again, is not only focused on having being in academia or just pursuing research based positions or careers. That not all outstanding scientists are outstanding or even mentors. Sometimes we hear, I want to work with, so and so who is like the expert on their field, but that doesn't mean they might be the best mentors. That doesn't mean they're going to be even, available, especially when they're busy. So again, not focusing only on the science, but understanding that the key for success in grad school is your mentor. You can have great science, but if you have a poor mentor, as a mentor, you might not have a great experience. So again, balancing your science interest and focus with like a mentor that is going to be supportive and that's going to be there for you in the good and in the bad. And the other one is that science, like research, is hard. And many grad students in STEM fields, there's data, right, that shows that they are more likely to develop and suffer from depression, anxiety, mental health issues because, it's hard to feel like, oh, I can take care of myself because you're focusing on like, I need to get these experiments going, I need to graduate. So they struggle taking care of themselves. And now there's a more push to treat, making sure that students are taken care, that you are first a person and that they have resources available in place so that you can manage, right, the stress and the challenges that come into with grad school. And now that at least you got these pieces, of data in the back of your mind, the first step into thinking about grad school, and it might sound silly, but is knowing your why. Why do you want to go to grad school? And this has to be based on what you want, not, pressure from family, not because someone else is doing it, or well, maybe because, you give me options, but I don't even know what I'm going to do at the end. And that's going to come through your personal statement, through your interviews, if you're not really sure of why you want to do this. So it's really important that you take the time. And if you struggle answering, why do I want to go to grad school? Or maybe you're not 100% doing research, it's okay to delay your application. It's okay to take the time to gain the experiences to help you make that, decision before getting into this long training. So what is your motivation? I mean, do you enjoy tackling complex research questions? Do you get excited about when you get like results? You like to think outside of the box, being creative when things are not working out, like troubleshooting, want to work, collaborate in with others, but also have that independence as well. Do you feel excited about sharing and talking about science with others? So you want to be at the forefront of discoveries and advances the knowledge in the fields, right? So just thinking about where is really that motivation for me to pursue this path. Also, you want to think about how would a PhD help me, right? Advance my long-term career goals. How would it prepare me with the skills and the experiences to be successful in whatever that is? Whether you're thinking science policy, you're thinking science communication or academia, or you want to go into patent law, you want to go into like public health, you want to teach, like where does it fit and that it is beneficial? You're only thinking about what you will learn, but also employment, market, career advancement, and all those things that are important. And does it align with your values, skills, and interests, right? So you have like kind of a combination of these three main things that you want to think and drive your why of pursuing grad school. So this takes me to the key message that I want you to leave on when you're thinking about grad school, and it's that you want to find a program that helps you develop in different areas, right, of your scientific formation, not only your science, but professionally, personally, and in terms of the career skills that will set you up for future success. So thinking about your graduate training in a more holistic way. So science is going to be the center of your training, right? Of course, it's going to be where you're going to spend in the next 5 or 6 years, but also thinking in terms of like the school, right? How are they preparing their students to develop the resilience to navigate the complexity of the scientific world, right? The challenges that you face as scientists. How much are they putting into their like well-being and mental health of the students and supporting the students when situations arise, when there are mental health concerns. You want to think about community groups and support system, whether that's like faculty, peers, other groups that you can share your experiences that support each other and that gives you that sense of belonging in the scientific community. How they prepare you again for your future career goals in terms of like their career development, programming, develop you as a leader because you are the future leaders in the biomedical research. So other things that they can focus in like pedagogy and other things that are important for you, right? So just looking for those things specifically. And also, how do they prepare their faculty, their students, their administrators, and their community to foster a civil work environment, right? To train them with the best practices for mentorship, and to train them with anti-harassment, programs, so that everyone has an understanding of, this is we promote like a safe and welcoming environment. So just those are some of the things that you want to think holistically as well when you are thinking about your graduate training. That is not solely on that science component. So once you think and reflect on it, and it's like, okay, this is what I want to do, for whatever, some of those reasons that I talked to, is thinking about, am I ready? Right? Do I have what it takes? Am I sure that this is what I want to do? And it's okay if you don't feel ready right now. It's okay if you want to take the time to gain additional experiences, or just take the time to get ready so you can be a more competitive applicant. So you want to think about your academic preparation, right? And there's nothing you can do about your GPA. If you are, if you're a postbac, but thinking about the classes that you took, right? How well did you do in your hardcore science classes level? Did you take the right courses? If you're going into bioinformatics, do you have some foundational knowledge, right, and preparation that can help you succeed in your graduate studies? So it's not only, when you think about academic, it's not only about your GPA. It's not only about, oh, I got A's, but it's like of how much you actually like learn, and having that strong foundation to start at the grad school level. Your research skills, right? Just understanding, not only I know how to follow an experiment, I know how to take directions. They're not looking for that. They're looking for someone that can think as a scientist, right? That have developed those analytical skills, problem solving skill, critical thinking, that understand their project. What am I doing this? So you're not only some pipetting hands. The ability to read and comprehend research papers, that's going to be your life. You're going to have to read a huge amount of literature, and you want to make sure that you can read and comprehend quickly, and can have a conversation about it. Your communication skills, both verbal and written, whether you have presented at the postbac seminar series, right? Or have given our presentation at a conference, at a branch meeting, poster presentations, have had the opportunity to contribute maybe to an article. So just experiences that help you improve these skills, and you will continue to do so in grad school as well. Time and well-being management skills. This is really important. It's something that you don't want to wait until you're there to figure that out. You have a year, right? Now to kind of learn and be self-aware of, am I managing my time? Like, what are some of the thresholds that gives me stress? What are some of the tools that I can use to manage my stress? To also learn how to manage your time. You're going to be not only focusing on your experiments, but what is like taking classes. Plus, if you're involved in other activities in grad school, plus you also want to have a personal, right, life outside school. So just being able to develop those skills that take time. So you're ready for grad school. Being aware of the career outcomes and path. You don't want to go naively into a program and not knowing like what are the employment trends in the career field that I am interested in, right? So you want to really think about how would a PhD get me there, right? And you want to have a job after you finish your PhD. So one thing is in many of these the schools, they have, not all of them, but they have career outcomes. So you can have an idea of how they're preparing them for the workforce and what type of positions, and also like workplace settings they're pursuing. So it gives you an idea, and then just keeping up to date with the trends, PhD career outcomes. Also, developing your interpersonal skills, emotional intelligence. Science is not done alone. You're going to be collaborating not only with your peers, but going to be working with people that have different backgrounds, different perspective, different work styles, forms of communicating. And it's just having that maturity and ability to navigate conflict, to navigate like differences in personalities and ways of doing things, to having difficult conversations, to understand your emotions, right? As well as how to interact with others. Willingness to sacrifice and maturity. These are 5-6 years that are hard, and might be some times where you have to work late, long days, where you have to work weekends. So if you have other, family responsibilities, you want to think about, am I ready to sacrifice those times where I'm not going to be able to spend with my family or friends or visit, family. So think about that. Of course, developing resilience, and I have some links at the end, but we do offer the Becoming a Resilient Scientist series, which is excellent. And it starts this fall. So if you are not taking it, I encourage you to do the live sessions. It's a combination of lectures and group discussions. And if not, we have also the videos that you can access through our YouTube channel. So it's very important, right, to start working on that. And finances. Most graduate school programs, they provide you with, a stipend or cover tuition and other things, but you have to also assess how does that fit within your own situation. If you have a dependent, if you have some other financial responsibilities, am I comfortable with what they're giving me, right? And thinking that it varies depending on which coast you are and what state you are and the cost of living there. So you just want to have the data so that you can make an informed decision and it doesn't come as a surprise. One thing to also think about is what type of program is right for you, right? Not every career requires a PhD. And this is where it comes like knowing the employment market and what they're asking, right? And is a PhD going to take me there? If that is the case, right? So then thinking, well, the different types of PhD programs. There's the umbrella or interdisciplinary, where you are accepted into the program, and then you can explore different fields, try different labs in different departments, especially if you have like various like interests that are not completely aligned. That gives you the chance to try, right, and do rotations in different departments and with different PIs. So you have a larger options to choose from, and then you decide, right, what's going to be your focus. Or maybe you are already decided, I want to do neuroscience, and I'm just going to apply to neuroscience program. You can also have a combination of both types of programs. There's also the MD PhD. So if this is what you want to do to train as a physician scientist, bridging the scientific discoveries with clinical practice, and these are generally funded programs, but are longer in training and very competitive. So you want to kind of really, reflect, is both of them, you can't live without both of them, then, go for it. If you are still debating between MD, PhD, MD or PhD, talk to one of the advisors, right? And to kind of help you figure it out, like think about, right? What would be most beneficial, like seem like right for you. But at the end, of course, is your decision. I mean, there's also grad school. There's, master's programs fall into it. These are like shorter programs. Just have in mind that many, if not most, master programs you have to pay, and there's not as much as a scholarship to apply for. So you have to take into account like the finances and how much it will cost you. And also, is an MD, is a master's just necessary for the job that I want to have in the future, right? If a PhD is not going to advance you, and most people that do that have masters, and you feel comfortable with it, then go for it. But just this is something that you want to not take lightly. Since you can do, PhD, you can go straight to PhD without having a master's, but it all depends on what do you want to do. Here's just some links for the master's on public health, which there are like a lot of disciplines within, if that's why you're interested, so you gain a little bit more information. And then there's professional science masters. I think these are not as talked a lot about, but these are 2-year programs at the careers of the interface of science management and business. So it's just that it's usually combines taking coursework and then applying, those practicing skills that are critical for that specific profession that you're following. And there's a link there that has a list of all the different types of professional science masters and information about it, if you want to learn more about. So having said that, now we're going to go into the meat of the presentation, right? Thinking about what are all these things, all these factors that I want to consider when looking for the programs. And I have a lot of them here. We're going to go through a lot of them in details. But you can see that is not only about science, right? Science is just like one factor. And that these might have a different weight on what is important for you. So each of you have unique needs. It's looking for something different. For some of you, some things might be a must in a school, and for some others, you don't care. So what I suggest is that as you start making your list, as you start collecting data from all these programs, to maybe rank what are the must factors that the schools that I'm looking in these schools, because that is important for you. And then you have your Excel file with all the schools. So then you can like kind of make notes on the pros and cons for each of these things. And then you can take a, broader look and kind of narrow your list, or add or remove. So it's very important to be organized, because each program is so different. And it takes a lot of time doing this type of like researching the schools. I think this is the most overwhelming part of the process. So when we think about things to consider, the structure of the program, you want to think about how do they select? How do I select a mentor as a grad student, right? Do you do it in advance? So some programs like clinical psychology, you may have to contact PIs in advance and be accepted in a lab before even being considered. For most biomedical research programs, you do that after you're accepted into the program, after rotations. Also, where can I, have a collaborator in my committee from other department, from other universities, and who funds you? What's the role that they play into the funding? What happens if they lose the funding, if they don't have the funding? What happens if you try and then maybe it's not the best fit, right? And how do the program handles being able to change groups? Then you have the required coursework, right? So how flexible it is, how or how structured. When do I take the majority of the classes? So you have the flexibility of taking classes from other departments, of kind of building up your own curriculum in part. Teaching requirements. You want to think, do I need to teach? For some of these programs, you're required to be a TA, right? What preparation, what training do they have for this as well? And you want to think about it, if this really is like, if you don't really like to teach, how much you're willing to stretch if this is a requirement to be in the program. Type and benefits and other compensation. This is really important. You want to know how much you're going to get. You want to know, do they cover health insurance? Do they offer subsidy for transportation or childcare? Or what other things do they offer to their students? And also take into account the cost of living when you look at those numbers. You got to be comfortable with it, and this shouldn't come to you as a surprise. The graduation requirements. Are you required to have a first author publication, right? Think about also things along the way that gets you as a candidate for a PhD, right? Like the qualifying exams. What is the structures? If I don't pass it the first time, do they give a second chance? Or it's like, no, you're done. So those are some things that you might not think now because these are more kind of along the way, but that if you are researching, take a look at it. And very important, the attention to controlling time to degree. You don't want to be a grad student for 10 years. You want to ensure that if things are not going well, there's program oversight. The program directors, the deans are going to be there to support you through it, right? There are the constant checking points to ensure that you are progressing in your program. And that is really important. And again, many of the schools have those infographics where they kind of give you, what the average time that it takes to their grad students to earn their degree. Financial aid. So this comes what type of assistantships do they offer? Is it a TA or research assistantship? For example, I went to grad school where it was in a school of medicine and there was no undergrad. So they did not have teaching assistantship. I have to be an RA. So I had to do research in my first year. You want to think also, how does their funding work? Is it like the program funds you for 5 years, and then, or is it the funding for the first year? It comes from the department, then the PI takes over. What other type of grants or fellowship, scholarship, financial support they have to support you to your training? And this is very important. And if it's not clear from their website, contact their program directors, and they should be able to let you know what options and what are the things they offer. Then you want to think about how they see you, right? As, in terms of like seeing the student as a whole person. Again, you are a person first. So what's their focus on the overall success of their students? What are some of the programs that they have to help you develop your professional skills and gain a broader skill set? And that's grant writing, communication, leadership, management, different things that are going to prepare you for that variety of careers. Do they have opportunities for internships? So do they have a partnership maybe with industries that what you're interested in? Do you have other type of trainings that you have access to that they support? If you're interested in teaching, what are some of the teaching opportunities that they have? Do they have pedagogy training or courses that you can take to develop your being effective teacher? Touch on this, the strong leadership and oversight of your graduate experience, so that they are taking care of you along the way and supporting you through all your time. So you feel like if things go south, you have someone that you can talk to and that would help you figure out things, right, and support you through the way. Access to career counseling resources, again, when those time maybe you're studying for the qualifying exams, you are ready to defend your thesis, you are doing these experiments, and like you're getting overwhelmed, so that they have the support on the staff to help you navigate that they're committed to their students' wellness and wellness programs, and they're committed to foster a welcoming, inclusive environment. The career outcomes, again, what career paths are the alumni pursuing? And I think this can give you an idea of where kind of the focus is, if it's like most academia, if it's like, oh, they have gone through a variety of career paths. So it's kind of looking at like more broader skill set. And you can find that again in their website for many of them. You also want to think about the faculty and student community. Is this a place that you can feel yourself, right? That you can be you on campus and off campus, because your life doesn't stop only in the lab, right? Not only think about it, not only at the school, but also like the city, right? The vibe that you get. Are students respected, appreciated? Are they valued for who they are? And how do students they support student-led groups, right? How do they foster community among the graduate students? You also want to think about geography and cost of living. And I think some trainees think that, oh, it doesn't matter, but it does, right? Because again, you want to be in a place that you can do fun things. If you have a hobby, that you continue doing that. If you are like me that doesn't like the cold, being in a place where it snows most of the time, it's not going to make you happy, right? So I did grad school in the tropical, in an island where I could finish an experiment and go to the beach, where I can do a lot of things outside. It was hot, but I was okay with that. And that's part of, you want to think about the place that you are, because you're gonna have a life outside the lab, and you want to have access to things to enjoy. You also want to think about distance from family and friends. For some students, it's very important to be close to their hometown, close to their family. And for others, a little bit of a distance, it's healthy, right? So that's important to think of as well. Public transportation, I mean, do you have a car? Do you want to have a car? I mean, that adds on like finances. Do you prefer just moving with public transportation? So how accessible it is to that. So and the cost, right? And affordable housing, of course. This is where that stipend comes in, and all the help, that they provide. Are you being able to live, of that, knowing that no, you're not going to be rich in grad school, but you have to be okay with feeling comfortable, right? What they give you and the cost of things there. And also take into consideration if you have a partner or kids or other family that you have to take care of, and that might limit geographically where you can go. And thinking about the student satisfaction, the program climate, their morale. I mean, this may be hard to kind of assess through the website, but it's something that to ask when you, if you talk to students in that school, when you, for some interviews, they invite you, to their campus this is where you can, see how they interact, how the students, do the students look happy, right? What things do they do, for fun? How much they interact with the faculty? So things that you want to think about as well. And then it comes the quality of the department and institutions. And again, I said, right, don't focus on prestige. There are plenty of grad schools that are great. And yeah, they might vary in funding, they might vary on resources, but that doesn't mean they don't have quality and excellent research. So you want to take into consideration the core facilities, what is the access to research infrastructure that will, and support services that will support your research, right, and help you progress and move faster. Science of research excellence. How are they funded? And one way to find that, and at least from NIH funding, and we know it's been changing, but it's a start to use the NIH reporter, and that way you can see, depending on what your research focus is, our PIs in that school supported through these funding. You can also check from their website other funding that they hold. The publication record, not only how often the PI publishes, but how often do their students publish as well, because that is your goal as well in grad school. And then recognizing the hard work of their faculty and the students, right? So do they promote like these award ceremonies or monetary prizes for research excellence or other ways to recognize the work of their faculty and graduate students? And I mean, very, very important, of course, is that you find a place where you can do the science that you want to do, right? What is the scientific resources that you have access to in terms of state of the art, facility, important patient populations, if you want to work with vulnerable communities, if you want to do more closer to like clinical research, if you want to do some field work, what opportunities are to do things outside, your laboratory setting, the access to experts in your area, especially, when you're thinking about collaboration and how much you want to, the different directions that you want your research to take, which takes me to taking care on the number of potential mentors that you want to work with and that are doing what you want to do. So if you're interested in bioinformatics and there's only like one or two, is it really wise to apply to that school? And I say this, and maybe I'm getting ahead of your questions, but we get these questions a lot. And it's that sometimes if you're not accepted into grad school, not necessarily because you don't have the credential, but if you only put that you want to work with one person, they're going to wait. Well, if something happens, the PI that you want to work with doesn't have the funding, loses the funding by the time you get in, or they leave the university, or something happens along the way, you're not going to be happy if there's no other one person doing what you want. So maybe having stretching, how much you're willing to stretch, and just having a list of several, I will say at least 5 investigators, groups that you want to work with, that their science excites you, and checking again on their funding, their tenure. Sometimes they have lists of, previous mentees that they have had and where they are, and having in mind that some institutions have more strength in certain research fields than others. So you want to take that into account when you think about where do you see yourself working in terms of your research focus. You also want to take a look at institutional training grants. These are grants that are given to the university to enhance their predoctoral or the postdoctoral level training opportunities, right? So preparing them again with preparing them and supporting a comprehensive professional development curriculum to prepare you to be successful at the wide range of career path that you can pursue with a PhD. Schools that have these grants have shown excellence in research and their training. So it's a positive endorsement. The application varies. Some schools, you may find that when you're applying, they might ask you if you want to be considered for most commonly the T32. And others, you have to wait until you get in and settle in a research group and then, go from there. I put the link. Things are changing, so you can take a look at the different fields that they support, and also it can give information on universities that have this type of grants. Not to say that if they don't have these grants, you shouldn't go. Might have other non-NIH grants, private endowments that help support the training. You can also check past grants and awards. I put here some in the bottom that are already inactive or archived, like BEST, NRT from NSF and EAGER from NSF, that are also a good past indicator of the type of like the quality and of their training and research as well. And here comes the hardest part, right? So I gave you kind of a overall sense of what are some of all these factors that you want to consider. Now it's like, how do I learn about the schools? And this is the part that it's hard because there's no only like one place where you can just go and scroll down and find the schools. It's a lot of researching. So you might already have heard of like peers or mentors or professors that have gone to XY school. Or you might have learned from like FAIR if you attended last year. Is reading their website, right? The first thing is when you have your list, just reading carefully their website. Right now, some of the programs have updated. So the application portal can be open. Some open in September, some in October 1st. So you want to make note on that. Also make note if they have info sessions of open houses. That's the best opportunity for you to not only meet the program directors, but also meet students. Generally, they also bring students that you can ask them about their experiences, specific questions that will help you kind of figure out if that would be a right school for you. And also you can get insights about the application process, what they're looking for, etc. So that is something that you can add to your list. Again, talking to your mentors, professors, peers, faculty advisors, and knowing that they might know not only from their own experience, so they might be biased on that, but also they might have mentored a lot of other trainees and can give you kind of pointers of like, oh, they are going here or they're there. Or from their colleagues as well. Alumni databases, unfortunately, our database is not open yet, but I will use LinkedIn, check on your undergrad institution, and ask your network, ask others in conferences, meetings, or from scientific organization. That's another great way. If you went to a conference and you saw an awesome poster or an awesome presentation, kind of making note of where did that person go to school, or if they are faculty, where are they, and then checking on that school. If you have any question that is not answered in the website, contact the program directors and administrator, or if you have a specific question as well, right? So they are there to answer questions and help you figure out things about their program. Social media platforms. The AAMC has a list of various like PhD programs in biomedical sciences. It's not an exhaustive list, but at least it's a start. So you can go through that list that they have. And then the NIH Graduate and Professional School Fair. Fortunately, we cancel this year. but we're hoping to have it next year. So if you are in a stage where you're thinking of applying next cycle, then we're hopeful that we will be able to hold it, and then you can attend our graduate and professional school fair, which is amazing. It brings hundreds of schools from all over the country that are recruiting postbacs, and because we do in the summers, also summer interns, and just like letting you know about the programs and interacting. So that's another great way. Some conferences might have also like exhibits, and schools go there. So if you happen to be able to attend to a conference or have that, that's another opportunity to learn about schools and programs and meet program directors. So in summary, there are a lot of things you want to consider, not only those research areas that interest you, but also kind of what is the culture, right, of the program. And you can, I mean, it's very hard, right, to base it from the website, but look at the current events that they have for students. Look at what things are they sponsoring. That can give you an idea kind of where their focus is. Again, like the mentor selection, how students are progressing and the oversight that they have on their training experience, how are they supported, teaching opportunities or other opportunities to expand your skills, develop specific skills that you know is important for that, for your long career goals, the opportunities for professional and career development, geographic area, and the cost of living. And then you can make your pros and cons, and that can help you either narrow your list, or then you might, as you learn from other programs, expand your list. Okay, so that's kind of an overall view of how to approach, that search, in making your list of schools that might be right for you. Now I'm going to go a little bit on the application process. So in terms of timeline, right? So it's about a year preparation. So right now, you should be probably just already having some of the schools, like researching, gathering all like this information. Perhaps you're learning new things in today's talk that you're adding to your list and what to look for. And then from September actively to November, to the end of November, is the application portion of it, right? You want to think about letters of recommendation, and I'll talk about it in a minute. Those are very important and have a huge weight also on your selection. So if you haven't contacted recommenders, now is the time to just give them a heads up, right? And asking if they can write a strong letter of recommendation on your behalf, that you're planning to apply for grad school, and then you give them the information. But you at least want to secure those important references. Then comes submitting your application during these next few months, making sure that you request transcripts with advance, and then reminders for your letter, for your recommenders. And we have heard from last year, students have an interview as early as December up to like the end of February, maybe early March. But that's like the very active season for interviewing, and then making a decision until on April 15th. So that's the day. All schools can require a decision for where you're going. April 15th. You don't need to decide before that. Of course, you have to wait the offers and all the information that will be helpful to make that decision, but you don't feel that you need to rush until that day or 15. And then off to grad school. So it goes very fast. In terms of who review your application, and this can vary depending on the program and how big the program is or how small. So the number of people involved in the decision can go from 5 to 15 or somewhere in between. And it can be composed of faculty, deans, the program director, administrators, It's generally shared by the program director or director of admissions that lead the process. Applications, they receive the applications, they read them, they discuss as a meeting, they may pilot them like yes, no, maybe, depending on the admission. If it's going to be rolling admissions, they start reading application as soon as it opens. So in those cases, it's your best interest to submit as early as possible, because they're going to start reading as they roll in. And then by the end of, usually it's December 1st, November 29th, a lot of them were last year, the deadline to submit, they might have less slots for possible interviews. If it's just standard, you have until December 1st and then they start reviewing, then you have more of a flexibility. But I will pay more attention to that. And then program directors have some discretions, and this means that there may be occasion where there might be some concerns about an applicant or some flags that came from their application, and they might have some context. And sometimes if you have a concern that you think will impact you negatively, contact the program director and talk to them. Just kind of get their sense of how to approach that in your application. And not saying that these not necessarily will be shared, but at least if they see your application, they might have some context. And sometimes, depending on what it is, they might have those discussions when they are kind of in the fence of deciding over an applicant. In terms of requirement, of course, you need your transcript, right? That shows your academic trajectory, the science class that you have taken, the GPA. Some schools don't have GPA, some may say 3.0. I mean, that is very specific to the school. You can add that to Excel, to your Excel sheet. But they just want to know, like, how well do you do in the classes? So that's one component. The research experience is the single most important component for a grad school, right? Because they have to know that you have tried this, that you know what you're getting into, that you know what it entails. And it can vary. So here is where you talk about the different experiences that you have, and then whether they're short or longer term. It depends, right? Personal statement. This is where they get to know a little bit more about, your motivation. It's not just like your transcript or your CV. It's kind of getting your story, your narrative. And they might ask for personal statement or various statements. You will learn more about that next week. With Gale, now they have, last year they have some on resilience. Now they have some that we've seen that are called life experience statements or community statement. So this is your way to help them understand your why, right? Not only your why I'm pursuing this, how have you prepared for that, and also why this goal. And the recommendation letters, usually the minimum of 3 letters. Some might give you the flexibility to add 1 or 2 more. I've seen until up to 5, but it's always quality versus quantity. If a letter is not going to be that good, it might do more harm than help. And you want to think about research mentors or professors who know you well. So you want to be very strategic and wise on who you ask about the letters. GRE, most schools don't require it. It really have shown data, GRE, that it doesn't correlate like the scores with the success of the students. So many schools have ditched it, but some schools might require it. So at the end, you have to decide, right? If it's a program that you really, really want to go to, then you have to follow that requirement. One thing important to have in mind is that there's maybe an application fee associated with this. So take that into account when you're deciding how many school you're applying, because it adds up, okay? Some might not. But that you will find out when you are creating your accounts and going to application portals. Which takes me to the next thing, that is ask for fee waivers. You don't lose anything about asking. Some schools are very clear on the fee waivers. It's like, if you want to, if you're applying for a fee waiver, this is the process. Some may require you to apply 10 or 15 days before the actual deadline, because then they need to approve, so that then you have the waiver. Because if you pay, you're not going to get reimbursed, right? Some of them might have certain criteria that you have to meet in order to get a fee waiver. Some programs may provide a fee waiver if you are a postbac. So, which means you will need a signature for me, that you are certifying that you are in a postbac program. I know like Stanford had that a lot, because I received several of them. So just ask if it's not clear on the website, if there's no mention of it, ask the program director, because this can give you some flexibility, that if you get at least 5 maybe fee waivers, right, then you may be able to add a few other schools. And it also gives you a sense of how much money, right, you might spend on these applications, so you can plan. If the schools ask for the GRE to find information in ETS, or the Educational Testing Services, in terms of like dates and registering for a test, and the timing for they send the scores, and all that. But again, most schools would tell you, we don't accept GREs. GREs are optionals. GREs are not required. If you're in doubt, contact them. And if you have to take it, then make sure that you include that in your plan, right, in within the application, so you have enough time to like study, take it, wait for the scores, and then go from there. Remember that if they don't receive any of these requirements, your application is not considered, and there are no exceptions. Letters of recommendation, as I said, they require at least 3, and they have to be submitted through their own portal. This is not like med school where you get AMCAS, you can put it there. It doesn't work like that. So think about that when you're asking for letters of recommendation, that if you are applying to 10 schools, that person that you're asking has to submit 10 different letters to the different schools. So which is why you want to give them enough time to prepare and to submit their letter. And you want to ask mentors or professors who know you very well, and more in terms of your scientific development, scientific growth, that they can talk about how you work in teams, collaborate, how you handle setback, your critical thinking skills, like troubleshooting, like what are your abilities and skills as a scientist, as an independent thinker, that will help you thrive in grad school. You don't want someone who writes you, oh, Natasha sat in front of the class and she got an A, she asked some questions. You don't want that. You want someone that can personalize it, so they can use examples that give them the context of who you are as a scientist, and also your personal character, your work ethic, your professionalism, all that. The easiest is providing them all the details you need. So make sure that you have your CV updated, you attach that, a list of schools, deadline, very organized spreadsheet with the schools. You should receive 13 links, right? Checking in the portal that they have submitted it. If you have a good draft of a personal statement, I would attach it also. I usually tell students who ask me that I have worked with, tell me, what do you want me to highlight about you in the letter? And they give me a little bit of like blurbs of things based on our mentee and mentor relationship, right? So that is really helpful. And follow up. At the end, the responsibility, if they're submitted or not, falls on you, not on them. So don't feel bad on following up if they have accepted. this to say that, again, the letters of recommendations are thought to be very good predictors of success, which is why you want to be very wise in who you ask. So as you're thinking of the application process and how you can stand out, how you can prepare a strong application, just ask yourself, maybe journal. I will journal about this. Talk to someone that knows you, that you trust. What are some of the characteristics and skills that I have, that might enhance my chances of being a successful grad student? What sets me apart? What have I accomplished? And don't think about, one of the things we trainees ask is, do I need a publication? Publication is not a requirement, as you saw, right? I mean, it's a plus if you have, but talk about, did you present at a postbac poster day, at a conference? Did you got, best poster award? Were you able to write? If you were able to be part, I mean, sometimes if you were part of a paper or something like that, right? So don't minimize any accomplishments that you have had, whether in your undergrad and here as a postbac. Why you are interested in that field? That's a very important question. Like, you have to have a reason why you want to do bioinformatics, why you want to go to neuroscience, why this school, what are you looking for, right? What are your career goals? And then things about, and this comes with the different statements that they might ask you, what are some obstacles that you have faced? How you have overcome them? What have you learned from them? And what have you done, right, to improve yourself? And then any gaps or discrepancies in your academic record. Like I said at the beginning, right, many trainees worry about GPA. It's just one small thing. But if you don't know how to assess yourself, then make an appointment with one of the pre-grad advisors, and we can help you guide through that thought process. If you're reapplying, we know that unfortunately last year wasn't that positive for many who apply for grad school, and whether interviews were canceled, offers were rescinded. Like I think the first thing is to acknowledge that you had no control over that. It is stressful, it is disappointment, it is frustrating, right? But if you're reapplying, gotta have a positive mindset. Now, what can I do, right? The first thing, getting advice from a pre-grad advisor, career counselor, or someone that is knowledgeable about the process. What things have you done, or will you do while you're preparing your application that you can add, how you can also portray, again, your story, your narrative, reflecting on school choices. Sometimes it's about school choices, sometimes it's about what I mentioned of applying to a school where there was only one or two options. So thinking about broadening the range of programs you're applying to, making sure your research interests match the program, addressing gaps that you may not addressed before. Some It's a long shot asking for feedback. They probably receive a lot of application and might not have time. I've heard of some that get some feedback, but it's being mindful of who you ask, and what your expectations is on that, and then keeping a positive mindset on this process. So, what tips for success we want to leave you with? Research the school. Don't apply blindly without knowing what they do, because when you got to write the personal statement, it's going to be hard, right? So you got to, again, maybe taking the time to journal, to brainstorm of, why am I doing this? What are the research areas that excite me? What do I see myself doing in the long term? Or in terms of like where I want to focus my graduate studies, right? Make a list of the factors that are the must for you and focus on those things. But take the time to research the school. And I always suggest the trainees to make a goal per week. So maybe you have to assess your schedule, but maybe you do like one or two schools a week, and then decide, okay, can I increase more depending on the time. Um, Taking this process seriously, what you want with your application is to get an interview, right? And there's no exceptions here on, oh, I didn't read that, I didn't know that this was the deadline. Those are the first things that should be on your list. Following with your recommenders. And in this, I always say, give them a leeway between the actual deadline and your deadline. So if it's December 1st, you can say, I'm planning to submit my application on November, I don't know, 21, put the date. But at least that's your deadline and they have that deadline. But if something happens and they haven't been able to submit, there's still some days before the deadline of the application. But it's important, again, to follow up, making sure you have everything submitted on time. You can apply to too many schools or too few schools. I mean, I think, again, this comes specifically on, are you limited by geography? Is your research focus like a very niche? So there's not that many schools that focus on that. So that will determine like the number of schools. But in general, we are saying like between 8 and 10, especially. Now, apply early. So maybe try to submit application 1 or 2 weeks before. Get advice along the way. You don't have to do this by yourself, and take care of yourself. Don't forget to do the things that you enjoy. If you like to go, to the gym and exercise, keep incorporating that into your process. Stay connected with your family, with your friends. Because this is a stressful process and there's a lot of stakes. Especially in this current stage where there's so much uncertainty about funding and like how the grad schools, in terms of how many like students are going to accept and resources they have. What am I going to do next if I don't get in? So that adds up. So keep yourself organized. And then for some, this is a time where you have to face difficult situations that maybe happen on undergrad or here at NIH, where you have to maybe transition from one group to another one. That can kind of change your mindset. So just trying to, be, positive, and focus more on your accomplishments and what you want to, what you're looking for, and why you want to do this. And understanding and being aware that it's hard to make a decision, right? There's not only like our own like pressures, but also external stressors as well. So you want to take care of yourself to be able to manage the process, but also the stress of the process, right? It's going to be stressful no matter what. But when you have the tools and strategies to navigate that anxiety, to ground yourself, then it kind of, makes it a little bit like more manageable, right? So use resources to develop a plan. Again, stay connected to your mentors, your friends, to the people that are your best advocates. Develop a resilience and wellness practice. We have a lot of OIT well-being resources, groups, support groups, skills group, drop-ins, workshops, and do not get blinded by their science. Have in mind all these other things that are important for your success that we just went over on. So we're here to help you prepare for that, right? And today was the first installment of the workshops. A reminder that we do host bi-weekly Q&A sessions for applying to grad school every other Friday. So we have one coming up this Friday from 11 to 12. And you are welcome to attend as many or as little as you want. In terms of general workshops, next week, the writing personal and research statement workshop. We have one, right, talking about managing our stress. We have one in September 17 that is going to be facilitated by one of our OIT Wellbeing advisors on navigating grad school and professional school with resilience. And then we have preparing for grad schools in November. They're all already in our website, so you can register for them. Additional resources that we have, the email went out today about the grad school personal statement writing working group. It starts on September 11. It's 3 live sessions that combine short presentations and small group discussions. So we give prompts and you learn a lot from each other in the breakout rooms. Is once a week for the three weeks from 10 to 12. Check the dates. There's a lot of things happening in September. So it's September is a Thursday. Then we have September, there is September 22nd. I'll change that before I send you the slide. September 22nd is a Monday, and then October 1st is a Wednesday. The group mock interviews for grad school, they will start in early December, and then we do another session in early January. We usually open the registration in November, and we do a mix of virtual and in-person. So some of them are going to be through Teams, and some of them are coming into our building, OITE. And then remember, you have access to educational advising for one-on-one appointments. That's what we are here for. So that's the link where you can make an appointment. Now, I forgot to say that with the grad school personal statement, at the end, when you finish the sessions, we open up slots to review your personal statement. So you get 1 hour with one of us, and then you get feedback in your state. We have additional grad school resources. Our YouTube channel have a lot of our past workshops and panels and events that you can access. The YT career blogs have also different topics like letters of recommendation, thinking about your, statements, and all other relevant topics on grad school that you can search. Our well-being resources, the Becoming a Resilient Scientist series that will start in the fall. So again, I encourage you to do the live sessions. But if not, we have also all the past workshops in our website and the mental health and well-being of Medicare researchers. The graduate and professional school fair, if you are applying next cycle or still here, is July 15, 2026. You can watch now the previous recordings from 2024. And then I also added here the link for the panel that we just did in July on strategies for navigating grad school, where we have several of the deans from different schools just answering, like the main questions and guidance on the process and how to approach this cycle. And then we'll have updates on February about the grad fair. Okay, so that is all I have. I am going to close the presentation. I thought I closed the... Okay, here we go. I can see you. And now answering questions.
So big question is impact on funding. The funding on programs. So you can start with that one.
So that is a very good question. And that's why we had that panel in July, and because it's a huge worry. And the answer is, it's hard to answer. Many schools are still figuring out. I mean, some you'll see that they are updated, but the key is that it's going to be challenging, and some schools might be going on the more conservative side, meaning they might have less slots for their incoming class and longer wait lists as they figure out funding. But from our understanding, they are doing their best to compensate for the lost of funding if they have, and many of them also have non-NIH or federal funding. So I think there's a lot that might be out of their control, out of your control. I mean, we can't sugarcoat it, right? It's going to affect for many the number of plots and offers that they extend. So just have that in mind. Look at their information if they have any updates on like funding, attend their fairs, and then just be mindful on your list of schools and the type of funding that you can find like they have.
Now, international schools versus U.S. PhD programs.
Yeah, that one I don't have, and I don't know, maybe Gail or my other Natasha have information up, but for international, I mean, what we know is like the international, many of the international like programs, you might need like the masters, but in terms of like funding or the impact, I don't have as much information on those.
What I know a little bit about the international schools is they do a lot less coursework than we do. They're usually not combined with teaching assistantships. So if you were to do teaching through one of those PhD programs, it would be like additional compensation. And they also start their research like as soon as you get into
Earlier.
the lab, because you're basically applying directly to a lab or directly for a specific project. And in addition, their applications are slightly different. And the fact that they're asking you to write like a research proposal research statement instead of a research experience research statement.
Thank you, Natasha, for that update.
Welcome. Let's see here.
I see one about about the writing working
Yeah.
group. I think you answered that one. Okay, let me see. Sign up for the working group now. You don't have to, it's not individual sessions. You sign up in advance and then we send you all the information. Okay, I don't think any new questions that haven't answered in the chat. So I think there's one here that might be common for others about like the letters of recommendation. If you need to finalize the schools, don't wait. You're still working on it. You can just reach out to the people that you are considering to write your letter and say that you're applying these, of course, the hi, hope you're well, like and it depends also on how often you communicate with them. If you need to give them a little bit reminder of where you met them or the type of work that you did, if it was like a long time ago. But just give them a sense of you're applying to grad school and you want to know if they can write you a strong letter of recommendation. You can give them a sense of when you're planning to apply, an average of the number of schools, but you don't have to have a list. I mean, they're not going to write a letter right now. Probably they're going to write it closer to the deadline. So then when you have finalized your list and we're sure, okay, these are the schools and you're entering their names, then you can give them, an update with more information. But it's really good to just give them a heads up so they have it in their mind so they can say, oh, I'm going to be flying for Thanksgiving, so I need to submit them before the holiday. And remember that you might not be the only one asking for letters of recommendation. So if they have to submit one letter, several letters for mentee, that adds to their time. So it's just keeping them up to date and giving them the heads up. Oh, I don't see any others
Yeah, I think you got all the common
haven't
ones.
been answered. Yeah, the common one. I think because we have one of the questions that we also get a lot is if you should email PIs, investigators before applying. And you might get different answers from different people. The bottom line is at the end is your personal decision, but just think about that for programs that you don't choose your mentor after you get into the program and you do rotations, it might not be the best use of your time. I mean, these applications, especially writing the statements, because each school might have different statements, take time. So you just have to balance where you want to put your effort. And if it's like PI that, I mean, it's like your dream, like you really, really want to work with them, reaching out to learn about the science, the type of projects I'm working on, and having just like a short kind of informational interview, it's okay. But just emailing to, hey, are you taking grad students? They might not know. They might have no role in the admission process. Um, so have that in mind, and also be mindful if they say in their website page, do not contact me until after you're accepting the program or something like that, then I will just respect that as well. Let's see. I think is there any other question, Natasha, that we have gotten a lot?
Maybe mention not to use Google Chrome for registering for the course.
Oh, we will send you instructions because you're gonna have to. It's through well, right now you can register. It's just like a survey. Once we close, we're gonna send everyone the instructions because you're gonna be added to the learning manager where the course is gonna be, and then how to access Teams and all that. The joys of now figuring out Chrome and Edge, or if you have Mac, Safari. But don't worry, we'll support you if you have issues for
Yeah.
the course.
So if you're having issues with Google Chrome and it's saying access denied, use Safari or Edge.
Yeah, switch browsers. Trying to think about anything else that they touch. Come to the Q&A questions on Friday. I know we threw a lot of information. So this Friday we'll be hosting the Q&A from 11 to 12. So if something comes up that you didn't think about now, that is your opportunity. Again, we're doing them twice a month until January because we know it's the active session. Reach out to us if you have any questions, if you feel overwhelmed. There are plenty of resources. We are here for you, and we wish you the best. We'll share the slides and send you the recording when it's ready. Just please give us at least like 24 hours. And then we'll see you on the next workshop on next week on personal statements. Have a great rest of the week. Bye, Gail. Thank you.